The reason you have low test, you're weak, tired, and maybe soft, I'm gonna go over in this video, and hopefully it helps you a lot. The last video we done was an absolute belter on this. People loved it, so this is like a second part. If you haven't seen the first, make sure to go back and watch it. You'll get a ton of value from it. But let's dive straight into the value. And just so you know, this is not coming from personal experience. Big T's, not so. Number one, crash dieting way too hard or excessive cuts for too long a time periods. If you are dieting for long time periods, think about this. When is the worst time to bring a kid into the world? Why does a woman lose her menstrual cycle when she diets too hard? It's because you do not have enough food for yourself. So why would you bring another mouth in? So that's actually the reason why that function turns off. It's not a good time to reproduce because there's not enough food. So as a result, test lowers, estrogen lowers. So it's actually a natural response. So the worst time you can get your test levels checked is actually during a dieting phase, because it'll give you almost like a false positive, but it will mean you have low test. So if you are dieting for excessive time periods, I would recommend doing deloads where you're washing off fatigue, you're doing diet breaks, or you take actual full-on stops and reverses in your dieting phase to maximize your testosterone levels staying nice and steady if you're natural. That is such a smart way to do it. But if you are excessively dieting all the time and you're never in a surplus, you can say goodbye to your test levels. And if you do that for long time periods, it will affect you in the long term. Number two, sleep sabotage. Whenever we break it down, if you're not sleeping 7.5 hours a night, 5 sleep cycles, you're just asking for your test to be lower. There is loads of research to show that if you're sleeping about 6 or under per night on average, your test levels will drop anything from 10 to 20%. You're building up a sleep debt. Like, think about it. If you miss 1 hour sleep every night for a week, that is a full night's sleep. Like, you've missed 1 full night's sleep that week, and you think, how are you going to perform? You're literally down regulating these things. So simple things like, if you actually look at your sleep routine, are you bringing your phone to bed? Are you using blue light blockers? Are you drinking chamomile tea? Do you actually have like a bedtime routine? You don't need to be like 5 years old and get your mum to tuck you in. Your mum does tuck me in sometimes, but like, we'll send on. Just having like a switch off period for half an hour where you don't work, you don't scroll, you calm down, you wind it, will put you in a deeper sleep, and you actually set an alarm to go to bed. This sounds dorky, it sounds dweeby, but it's something I do. I don't set an alarm to get up, set an alarm to go to bed. So every day at 9 p.m, my alarm will go and I start getting ready for bed. I'm usually in bed for 9:30, sleep for 10, and I always get up before 6. Body just wakes up now. And if you're used to the same sleep pattern, it just makes life way easier. Just so you're aware, if you're not taking your sleep serious, you're not taking your test levels serious, and this will come back to bite you in the arse with the way you look, feel, perform, and even your sex life. Number 3, alcohols and toxins. So this is a bit of a weird one when I say toxins, but pretty much if you drink any alcohol, you are down regulating your testosterone. I think for most men, you'll probably get away with like 1 to 2 drinks before it really impacts you. And it is short-lived, but if you're drinking a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or you're having a couple beers here and there, it will just down regulate your test. It's just proven in studies, the calories are wasted. And I know it's not a whole lot of fun, but in reality, if you're taking this serious in your health, you do want to limit the amount you are binge drinking. 1 or 2 never hurts. Consistently doing it week on week will. Whenever I break down toxins, this is going to be a bit taboo, but simple things that will help is simply swapping out your plastic Tupperware for glass Tupperware. Now, I'm not going to turn into the carnivore and liver king and say, you go pure organic. In reality, when we break it down, just simple things like this, not microwaving your food in plastic, which is shown to affect your test levels in the long run, is just playing it safe. The research could be better here, but in reality, I do sort of back that a little bit, and I think it would be smart just to simply make that swap just for safety. I'm not saying you have to freak out and live like the longevity kings where they're biohacking every 10 minutes, but I do think in reality, just some small implementable steps like this can add up. Number 4, not doing any steps. Studies not only show that if you walk longer, you live longer, but in reality, if you are a pure couch potato, like you're like my main man, Joseph Yeppo in the corner there, he loves it, like he doesn't move, like he's just sitting editing. He's editing this right now, hating me. But if you're not actually walking, getting sunlight as well, which is massive for actually producing the testosterone in your body, you are going to notice that lower NEAT levels do usually result in lower testosterone levels. This is why like exercise is so important. So actually taking a walk every day or keeping your steps above sedentary, which is 8K per day, is shown to help you increase your testosterone levels. And that leads us into the next point, which is sun and micronutrients. So these sort of go over. So supplements will sort of lap in here as well, but I'm just gonna break this down and go for it. Sun, this is pretty much what my dissertation was on in uni. So my dissertation was on testosterone and vitamin D. So pretty much sunlight gives your body vitamin D, pretty much goes into the testes, produces testosterone. It's one of the ways. Boring, weird, I know, but if you're not getting enough sunlight, supplementing with vitamin D3, 4,000 IUs will cover you there. So either get your ass out in the sun or supplement, one or the other. Apart from that, I would recommend zinc, magnesium, and ashwagandha. Zinc, 30, 40 milligrams a day. Magnesium glycinate, 600 milligrams. both of them before bed, and same with ashwagandha, about 600 milligrams. The reason being is they don't all just boost testosterone. They all help with sleep and your growth hormone, your testosterone. It all regulates there. Recovery is so key. And as a result, that is shown to indirectly boost majority of people's test levels. So if you're not doing this and you're deficient in all these things, that is going to massively impact your overall test levels. And that could be the reason why you have low test and poor sex drive. These are all these small 1% that if you're not looking after will add up and kill you. Look, this is a bit of a taboo one we're moving into here. It's Cornhub and just over pleasuring yourself. This sounds really weird, but like whenever you watch that sort of stuff, it does affect your libido in the long term. And there is studies that show that if you are doing that, it will actually impact your testosterone levels. There's also studies that show that if you're in like a sexless marriage, sexless relationship, you're actually dropping your test levels naturally. Like they actually lower. So you need to be having sex pretty much is the main thing. If you're not using it, you're losing it is a general rule of thumb. But if you're overstimulating yourself, you're actually affecting your dopamine pathways as well. So for example, if you, instead of approaching a woman, you are staring at a screen and touching yourself, you will notice that you don't have the same chase, the same bite. And it sounds insane, but there is studies that also back this up from a science standpoint. It's not just me just telling you what to do. I'm just looking at the research and what adds up over time. You'll notice it as well, even with how you feel. For example, if you have sex in the morning, you'll notice the rest of the day, you're not as aggressive. You're not as this. Not saying test immediately lowers, but over time, it does add up if you are playing with your toddler all the time. So just so you're aware, don't be overstimulating yourself, ruining that pathway, and in turn affecting your overall testosterone levels. Next one is drugs and medications that people don't really think about. So if you ever get tested for a low test, I had a client like this before where their test levels were fine and then they just started plummeting all of a sudden, like maybe 12, 14, 20 weeks later. And the only thing that changed was they were taking antidepressants. So you need to be very careful with your medication. So if you ever take medication, drugs, you ever taken any of the funny stuff, you do want to be mindful of what your test levels were like before and then after. So for example, people who smoke have lower test levels. People who drink regularly have lower test levels. People who take large amounts of medication have lower test levels. So just being very mindful if you take a medication or you start something like antidepressants, you just be mindful of your test levels because that can be impacted. And it's just good to keep an eye on it. And that can actually kill you in the long term with your test. It's just like somebody who runs a cycle. If you run a cycle, it's taking a medication that will impact your testosterone. Maybe not now because it'll go up, but in the long run. So that will kill your test overall. Next, we have overcaffeination and dehydration. If you are dehydrated, there's studies to show that 2% dehydration affects your performance, your mood, your energy, but it's also shown to lower your test levels. This is the same with every process in the body. Dehydration just screws it from your thought process on. So we really want to be mindful around that. And it's one of these things that people are always worried about supplements and they're taking Tonkat Ali, but they're not even drinking enough water. And that's the pure basics. So get the H2O down the back of your throat. It'll massively benefit you and make a huge difference. The reason I'm talking about overcaffeination too is because if you are overcaffeinating, you're more than likely just absolutely frying yourself where you're just running on fumes. It can be covering up fatigue. You don't deload, you don't take rest days, you don't sleep as well at night. And overcaffeination is always shown to be a bad thing. I think if you're running more than 600 milligrams of caffeine every day, you're running a wire. If you are pinging the caffeine into yourself, you're really going to do yourself test damage long term. So always try and resensitize from caffeine whenever you take a deload every 6, 8, 12, 14 weeks, or you go on holidays or you take time off the gym, or even if you just feel good, don't just take caffeine for the sake of taking it. Switch to decaf for a couple of weeks. Let your receptors actually resensitize, and you'll actually notice that you not only protect your test levels, but you also resensitize to the caffeine and it hits you harder and you get more from it. So really simple tips here. Maybe possibly the reason why you feel like you've low test. So if you're not having sex, you're micronutrient deficient, you're dieting too hard, there's a range of these and you'll probably notice one or two stood out to you. And all you need to do is just make small, subtle changes. And in the long term, your test levels can come back up. But whatever you do, just realize that it'll take 8 to 12 to 16 weeks for your test levels to rise back up. It doesn't just happen overnight. So if you're ever getting tested, always leave about 12 to 16 weeks between it because it takes time for your body to reproduce all these hormones, regulate them back, probably regulates the better word, back to where they should be. And that puts you in a far better position to gain muscle, look leaner, have a better sex life, like life's good. So just make sure you're very mindful about the things that could be killing your test that you don't even realize you're doing, and just be mindful. That's all I'm saying. If you enjoyed this, like, share, subscribe. If you have any questions, just drop me a message on Instagram. Always there to help. Big love. Thank you.